Right, hello. So where were we? Oh yes, they've been in the rolling land. I can't remember if it was called the roly-poly land or what it was called. But they've found the hole. They've just got through, thankfully, despite Mr. Saucepan getting stuck there with his saucepans. So, on to the next chapter, chapter 70. An invitation from Moonface and Silky. Nobody had really enjoyed the visit to the rocking land. That's the name of it. Which had been a mistake anyhow. They sat in Moonface's house, untying their cushions from their backs and fronts and looking at all the bruises they had got. "What shall we do with these cushions?" said Bessie. "Moonface could do with them, I expect," said Fanny. "He uses such a lot for his slippery slip, don't you, Moonface?" "Yes, they'd do very well," said Moonface, his big face beaming joyfully. "Some of mine are getting very old and worn. We can't possibly give them back to that cross old woman in the rocking land, so we might as well put them to some use here." "Right," said Joe, and he handed Moonface his 2 cushions. Everyone else did the same. Moonface was pleased. He poured lemonade for everyone and then handed round a tin of sweets. "I don't feel as if I ever want to see what land is at the top of the faraway tree again," said Joe, as he munched a peculiar toffee sweet which seemed to get bigger in his mouth instead of smaller. "Neither do I," said Bessie. "I certainly never will," said Fanny. "It seems as if there are never any lands there worth visiting. They are all most uncomfortable." "Except my little land," said the saucepan man, rather mournfully. "I was always very comfortable there." Joe's sweet was now so big that he couldn't say a word. Then it suddenly exploded in his mouth, went to nothing, and left him feeling most astonished. "Oh dear, did you take a toffee shock?" said Moonface, noticing Joe's surprised face. "I'm so sorry. Take another sweet." "No, thank you," said Joe, feeling that 1 toffee shock was quite enough. "I think we'd really better be going. It must be getting late." "What's going to happen to the old saucepan man now that he's lost his land?" asked Bessie, picking up a yellow cushion, ready to slide down the tree. "Oh, he'll live with Mr. What's-his-name," said Moonface. "Hello, he's taken a toffee shock by mistake. Watch him, do." They all watched. The saucepan man's toffee shock had got enormous and was about to explode. It did, and went to nothing in his mouth. The saucepan man blinked his eyes and looked so astonished that everyone shouted with laughter. "That was a toffee shock you were eating," said Moonface. "A coffee clock?" said the saucepan man, even more surprised. "Dear me." "Come on," said Bessie, giggling. "It's time we went. See you another day, Moonface. Goodbye, saucepan man." She shot off down the slide, round and out of the trapdoor at the bottom. Then Fanny slid off, and then Joe. "Goodbye," he called. "Goodbye." Mother was astonished to see their bruises. "Whatever have you been doing?" she said. "I shan't let you go to tea with the saucepan man again if you come home like this. And how dirty your clothes are." She sounds like my mother. Joe longed to tell Mother about the rocking land and their adventure there, but he felt sure she would think he was making it all up. So he said nothing and went off to change his dirty clothes. Things did not go very well the next week. Father lost some money one night, and Mother could not get very much washing to do, so that money was very scarce, and the children did not have as much to eat as they would have liked. "If only we could have a few hens," sighed Mother. "They would at least give us eggs to eat, and a little goat would give us milk." "And what I want is a new garden spade," said Father. "Mine broke yesterday, and I can't get on with the garden. It is very important that we should grow as many vegetables as possible, for we can't afford to buy them." To make things worse, their father was very cross with them for having spoilt their clothes the day they had gone off with the saucepan man. "If that's the way you treat the only nice clothes you have, you will just stay at home and not go out at all," he scolded. The children did not like being scolded, and Bessie mended their clothes as nicely as she could. 2 weeks went by, and the children had not even had 2 hours to themselves to go and see Moonface. "He'll be wondering what has happened to us," said Fanny. Moonface certainly was wondering. He had waited each day and each night to see the children, and he and Silky wondered what was the matter. "We'll send the barn owl with a note to tell the children to come quickly," said Silky at last. So she slipped down the faraway tree to the hole where the barn owl lived. She knocked at his door, and he pecked it open. "What is it?" he asked in a hoarse voice. Not an owl voice, a hoarse voice. "Oh, Barney dear, will you take this note to the children at that little cottage over by the wood?" asked Silky in her sweetest voice. "You're going out hunting tonight, aren't you?" "Yes," said the barn owl, and he took the note in one of his great clawed feet. "I'll take it." He slammed his door shut behind him and rose into the air on great creamy wings, as silent as the wind. He flew to the children's cottage. They were in bed, asleep. Barney sat on the tree outside and screeched loudly. The children awoke with a jump. "Whatever's that?" said Bessie. Joe came into their room. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Whatever could it be?" The barn owl screeched again. He certainly had a dreadful voice. The children jumped. Joe went bravely to the window and looked out. "Is anyone being hurt?" he called. "Mee!" screeched the owl again, and Joe nearly fell out of his window with fright. The barn owl spread his great soft wings and flew to Joe. He dropped the note onto the windowsill, screeched again, and flew off into the night to look for mice and rats. "It was a barn owl," said Joe. "It left a note. Quick, light your candle and let's see what the letter says." They lighted the candle and crowded around the note. This is what it said. "Dear Joe, Bessie and Fanny, why don't you come to see us? Are you cross? Please come soon, because there is a wonderful land at the top of the tree now. It is the land of take what you want. If you want anything, you can usually get it there for nothing. Do come, and we'll all go together. Love from Moonface and Silky." "Ooh," said Fanny, excited. "The land of take what you want. Well, I'd like to get a few hens." "And I'd like a goat," said Bessie. "And I'd like a new spade for father," said Joe. But then he frowned. "I'd quite made up my mind not to go up to any more of those strange lands," he said. "You simply never know what might happen there. We'd better not go." "Oh, Joe," cried Bessie, "do let's. After all, if there is a nice land, we might as well visit it." "Shh, you'll wake Mother," said Joe. "We'll see tomorrow what happens. If we can get some time to ourselves, we'll go and ask Moonface if the land is really safe to go. Now, we'd better go to bed and sleep." But they didn't sleep much. No, they were all wondering what the land of take what you want was like, and if they were really going to visit it tomorrow. Chapter 18. The Land of Take What You Want. The next day was very fine. The children helped their mother to clean the whole house down, and Joe proudly brought in some fine peas and lettuces from the garden, which he had grown himself. Mother was pleased. "You can go off after lunch by yourselves if you like," she said. "You have been very good today." The children looked at one another in glee. Just what they hoped. Good. "Come on," said Joe, after lunch. "We won't waste any time." "What about tea?" said Bessie. "Oughtn't we to take some with us?" "I should think we can get tea all right from the land of take what you want," said Joe with a grin. So they all ran off, waving goodbye to Mother. They were soon in the Enchanted Wood, hearing the trees whispering secretly to one another. Wisha, wisha, wisha. They ran through the bushes and trees to the faraway tree, and up they went. When they passed the window of the angry pixie, Joe peeped in, just for fun. but he was sorry he did, for the angry pixie was there, and he threw a basin of soup all over poor Joe. "Oh," said Joe in dismay, as he saw his shirt all splashed with soup. "You wicked pixie!" The angry pixie went off into peals of delighted laughter and banged his window shut. "Pooh, you do smell of onions now, Joe," said Bessie, wrinkling up her nose. "I hope the smell soon goes off." Joe wiped himself down with his handkerchief. He said to himself that one day he would pay the angry pixie out. "Come on," said Fanny impatiently. "We'll never get there." They passed the barn owl's door and saw him sitting inside fast asleep. They came to Silky's little yellow door too, but she wasn't in. There was a note pinned on her door which said, "Out, back soon." "She must be with Moonface," said Joe. "Now just look out for Dame Washalot's water, everyone." It was a good thing he reminded them, for not long after that a fine waterfall of soapy suds came pouring down. Fanny screamed and dodged, so did Bessie. Joe got some on his shirt and he was cross. "Never mind," said Fanny with a giggle. "It will wash off some of the onion soup, Joe." They went on up and came to Mr. What's-his-name's. He was, as usual, sitting in a deck chair, fast asleep with his mouth open. And beside him, also fast asleep, was the old saucepan man, looking most uncomfortable, draped round as usual with saucepans and kettles. "Don't wake them," whispered Joe. "We'd better not stop and talk." So they crept by them, but just as they had got to the next branch, the saucepan man woke up. He sniffed hard and poked Mr. What's-his-name. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" said his friend. "Can you smell onions?" asked the saucepan man. "I distinctly smell them. Do you suppose a faraway tree is growing onions anywhere near us today? I love onion soup." Joe and the girls laughed till they cried. "It's the onion soup on your shirt the saucepan man smelt," said Bessie. "My goodness, they'll spend all the afternoon looking for onions growing on the faraway tree." They left the two funny old men and went climbing up, and they got nicely caught by Dame Washalot's second lot of water. She was doing a great deal of washing that day, and she emptied a big wash tub down just as the three children were nearly underneath. Slishy, sloshy, slishy, sloshy. The water came pouring down and soaked all the children. They gasped and shook themselves like dogs. "Quick," said Joe. "We will go as fast as we can to Moonface's house and borrow some towels from him. This is dreadful." They arrived at Moonface's at last. Old Moonface and Silky rushed out to hug them, but when they saw how dripping wet the children were, they stopped in surprise. "Is it raining?" said Moonface. "Have you had a bath in your clothes?" asked Silky. "No, it's just Dame Washalot's water as usual," said Joe crossly. "We dodged the first lot, but we got well caught by the second lot. Can you lend us towels?" Moonface grinned and pulled some towels out of his curved cupboard. As the children rubbed themselves down, Moonface told them all about the land of Take What You Want. "It's a marvellous land," he said. "You are allowed to wander all over it and take whatever you want for yourselves without paying a penny. Everyone goes there if they can. Do come and visit it with me and Silky." "Is it quite safe?" asked Joe, rubbing his hair dry. "Oh yes," said Silky. "The only thing is, we must be careful not to stay there too long in case it leaves the faraway tree and we can't get down. But Moonface said he will sit by the ladder and give a loud whistle if he sees any sign of the land moving away." "Good," said Joe. "Well, there are plenty of things we want, so let's go now, shall we?" They all climbed up the topmost ladder to the great white cloud. The ladder led through the hole as usual to the land above. One by one they climbed it and stood in the strange country above the magic cloud. It was indeed strange. It was simply crowded with things and people. It was quite difficult to move about. Animals of all kinds wandered here and there. Sacks of all sorts of things, from gold to potatoes, stood about. Stalls of the most wonderful vegetables and fruit were everywhere, and even such things as chairs and tables were to be found, waiting for anyone to take them. Good gracious, said Joe. Can we really take anything we want? Anything, said Moonface, settling himself down by the ladder in the cloud. Look at those gnomes over there. They mean to take all the gold they can find. The children looked where Moonface was pointing. Sure enough, there were 4 gnomes hauling at all the sacks of gold in sight. One by one, they staggered off to the ladder with them and disappeared down to the Vare tree. Other fairy folk hunted for the different things they wanted: dresses, coats, shoes, singing birds, pictures, all kinds of things. As soon as they had found what they were looking for, they rushed off to the ladder in glee and slipped down it. Moonface found it fun to watch them. The others wandered off, looking at everything in surprise. Do you want a nice fat lion, Joe? Asked Silky, as a large lion wandered by and licked Silky's hand. No, thank you, said Joe at once. Well, what about a giraffe? Said Silky. I believe they make fine pets. You believe wrong, then, said Bessie, as a tall giraffe galloped past like a rocking horse. Nobody in their senses would want to keep a giraffe for a pet. Oh, look, cried Fanny, as she came to a shop in which stood a great many large and beautiful clocks. Do let's take a clock back home. No, thank you, said Joe. We know what we want, and we'll take that and nothing else. I think I should like a clock, said Silky, and she picked up a small clock with a very nice smiley face. It had 2 feet underneath, which waggled hard as Silky picked up the clock. It wants to walk, said Bessie with a scream of laughter. Oh, do let it, Silky. I've never seen a clock walk before. Silky put the clock down, and it trotted beside them on its big flat feet. The children thought it was the funniest thing they had ever seen. Silky was very pleased with her new clock. Just what I've always wanted, she said. I shall keep it at the back of my room. You don't suppose it will stay there, do you, Silky? Asked Bessie. It will wander round and about and poke its nose into everything you're doing, and if it doesn't like you, it will run away. Ding dong, said the clock, suddenly in a clear voice, making them all jump. It stopped walking when it chimed, but it ran after the children and Silky again at once. It was really a most extraordinary clock. Now, we really must look for what we want, said Joe. Are those hens over there, Bessie? Yes, they are, said Bessie. Good. Come along and we'll get them. Oh, this is a really lovely land. I am glad we came. What fun it will be getting everything we want. I do wonder what Mother will say when we get home. That's it for today. We'll have to find out what Mother thinks tomorrow. All right, take care. Bye-bye.